Hello everyone and welcome to the best of France 24. It's time to bring you this week's most striking reports filmed in the four corners of the world. Coming up, dozens of Japanese fishermen have been ruined by the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Marine life has been contaminated, scaring away consumers and leaving the fishing industry in tatters. And we'll meet with an Imam in Denmark who regrets fueling the violence against cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad in 2006. Now he's promoting freedom of expression. All this is coming up in just a few moments, but first they're known as Brazilian ninjas. Not assassins, but ordinary citizens armed with smartphones and cameras to record ongoing anti-government protests. Over the past 3 months, thousands of Brazilians have taken to the streets saying no to corruption, no to poverty and censorship. Nicolas Ranson, Frédéric Garder and John Dillamore have been in the thick of the action with these ninja journalists, and they sent us this report.
For more than 20 minutes, this avenue in Rio de Janeiro has been under siege, a front line in the heart of the city. On one side, more than 700 protesters brought together by the anarchist group Black Bloc.
This is chaos for peace. Those are my brothers in Egypt, in Turkey, Greece, Portugal and Spain.
I'm protesting for a better Brazil, to change this corrupt country where the politicians steal from those who are suffering.
In reality, we have to change everything.
Holding makeshift shields, they're heading for the state governor's office. On the other side, 400 riot police, struggling to defend their positions. The protesters reach their goal and the police respond with truncheons and tear gas grenades. Our team is also hit by a rubber bullet. In Rio, the protests have often ended in bloodshed.
The changes they announced to the health and education systems haven't been carried out.
Maria is what's known here as a ninja. She sends live pictures of the demonstration from her mobile phone, and there are many others like her. The national media, seen as close to the government, isn't welcome here.
What we want is a more democratic media, without manipulation or censorship.
Together, these so-called ninjas are testing the authorities. Faced with so many cameras, police are constantly having to justify their actions.
I'm taking him because he won't give us his name.
Soon after, the tables are turned. Under pressure from protesters, an officer is forced to show his identification.
These are the same demonstrators from June. It's already August, tomorrow it'll be September. And I don't think they will stop because Brazilians still don't have what they want.
Their demands: better transport, health, education and an end to corruption. Since June, the protest movement has become smaller but more radical. Other demonstrations are scheduled this September. It's being seen as an indicator of where the movement is heading and how long it might last.
More than 2 years after the Fukushima nuclear crisis, leaking reactors continue to poison the fishing grounds of the Pacific Ocean. The population, as well as seafood lovers across the world, are now shying away from Japanese fish. South Korea has even banned much of its imports from Japan. It's a terrible situation for local fishermen, now left unable to make a living. Mary Linton, Guillaume Bression, Makiko Segawa and Justin McCurry reports.
It's early Monday morning in Iwaki City. Fishermen cast their nets into the Pacific Ocean, just 35 kilometers from the wrecked Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. They haul in flatfish, sharks and squid. The fishing's good, but commercially it's worthless.
Those fish aren't for sale. They're only going to be tested for radiation. Once we've caught a big enough sample of fish, we toss the rest back into the sea.
The radiation tests are supposed to reassure consumers about the safety of some Fukushima seafood, but that approach isn't working.
The crisis at the nuclear plant hasn't been resolved, so it doesn't matter how many fish are found to have no radiation at all, consumers still don't feel safe.
Back at the port, Fukushima prefectural officials collect the fish. Every Monday, they make the rounds of boats that have been out to collect samples.
I should write down the location of the catch, right?
The officials then take the samples to be prepared for testing.
There's no doubt that radiation levels are decreasing as time goes by. Today, the number of fish with levels over the government's set limit of 100 becquerels per kilogram accounts for less than 5% of the total catch. It's very small.
Regardless of the improvement, the recent revelation that huge quantities of contaminated water are leaking from the plant and the occasional discovery of highly radioactive fish have spooked the public. As a result, all commercial fishing in Fukushima Prefecture has been suspended. At a meeting with unemployed local fishermen, TEPCO officials find themselves apologising yet again.
Our company is united and determined to do its utmost to tackle the contaminated water leaks. We pledge not to allow any more contaminated water to leak into the ocean in the future.
It's always the same. We are given verbal promises, but it isn't good enough.
Away from the front line of the debate, surfers have been riding the waves off the Fukushima coast for some time now. Several beaches in Iwaki City have been reopened to swimmers.
The authorities have reopened the beaches to prevent harmful rumours from spreading. But now that the contaminated water leaks have been revealed, they should close them again. But they haven't. Even children are playing here. I wonder about this government sometimes.
According to TEPCO, 30 trillion becquerels of radioactive materials have seeped into the ocean since May 2011. The worst case of radioactive pollution of the marine environment ever recorded.
He used to be a radical religious leader, encouraging Muslims to protest against the publication of controversial Danish cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. But now Ahmed Akkari says he's full of remorse. He's made a huge U-turn and now believes in freedom of expression. Our correspondent Malcolm Brabant first met the Imam in 2006. 7 years later, he finds out how Akkari has turned into an enemy of Islamists.
In 2006, furious Muslims burned down Denmark's embassy in Beirut as part of worldwide protests against the Danish cartoons, in particular one that depicted the Prophet Muhammad with a bomb in his turban. Passions were inflamed by a group of religious leaders who travelled to the Middle East with copies of the drawings. Amongst the most vociferous was Ahmed Akkari, with whom I conducted a tough radio interview at the time.
Isn't the real reason you went to the Middle East this year is because the whole case was dying down and you just wanted to stir it up and cause trouble?
No, we went to the Middle East because we knew that if we do not try to contain this problem by Al-Azhar, by officials, you know, when you go
you didn't go there to contain it. You've gone there and you've exacerbated it. You haven't contained the problem.
Yes.
You've exploded it by going to the Middle East.
I think the naive one or dirty purpose one is the newspaper. Why did they publish these 12 cartoons saying Muhammad has a bomb in his head? Didn't they think?
He now regrets his militancy.
You get to think in a special way. The Islamic mission has this power over mind. And it makes me think in a special way, and you get intolerant, agitated, and you see only the world from a certain perspective.
Akkari has been to apologise to Kurt Vestergaard, the artist who drew the Muhammad bomb cartoon. Vestergaard, who now requires round-the-clock protection, believes the former Islamist's change of heart is genuine.
After I made my revision of everything, I could see these cartoons actually was a part of a way of expression that actually saves people from being haunted. In other words, to be able to say your mind, even though you're wrong, has a greater value than saying your mind and afraid of being persecuted.
Akkari has alienated many Muslims by also addressing Denmark's right-leaning Free Press Society, where he condemned fundamentalism. Among the audience was Lars Hedegaard, an anti-Islamist writer who recently escaped assassination.
They'll try to kill him at some point, like they tried to kill me.
I think he's sincere. I think he means what he says. And I think it's amazing what this travel he has been. He used to be a fierce enemy of freedom of speech, and now he's supporting it. And I think it's wonderful news.
It's proving almost impossible to convince leaders of Denmark's Muslim community to give an interview about Ahmed Akkari. It's almost as if they have taken a collective decision not to talk about him in the hope that he'll go away. But a spokesman for a group called Hizb ut-Tahrir did say that Akkari was a victim of an intellectual war, that there had been overwhelming pressure on him and he had simply given in. But which Muslim voices dominate, radical or moderate?
The majority of Muslims in Denmark are in favor of democracy. They did not sort of follow up on violent action or anything during the Mohammed crisis. Some of them were sad, some of them were angry, but they did not take to the streets.
Copenhagen's Gay Pride Festival was underway as Akkari publicised his new admiration for Danish values. This parade epitomises tolerance, democracy, free expression, attributes underpinning a society that Akkari now professes to embrace. His conversion reached new heights at the Free Press Society when it presented him with a mug bearing the most divisive Mohammed cartoon, which he accepted.
What's the problem? It is an expression. You can agree with it or not, but it shouldn't take people's lives.
But in a new Islamist video just posted on YouTube, Akkari has been added to a list of prominent Danish targets. His conversion has placed him in real danger.
Okay, that wraps up the show. I'll see you next week for another edition of the Best of France 24. Same time, same place.